Our guest today is Meno Henselmans. Meno is an online physique coach, researcher, and entrepreneur who founded the Bayesian bodybuilding website. Bayesian bodybuilding is an evidence-based approach to fitness that looks at the current data and forms the most reasonable course of action based on that. What I do like about your work so far and research is like that you're very evidence-based and you do it like in a very scientifically way of thinking, and you don't make these rapid conclusions preemptively. But you mentioned that you are a fan of like low carb keto. So what do you think about it, and what's the best application for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sort of known as a keto guy in the bodybuilding circle, but in contrast to like mainstream bodybuilding, who is vehemently high carb and low fat. So in contrast to that, I'm like very pro keto, but I think it's a tool. It's certainly not suitable for everyone. A lot of people just cannot stick to it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people cannot stick to it because they don't know how to do it well. But there are also a lot of people that just don't respond that well to ketosis, or they just don't need it. They get the same results with or without it. I probably fall in that category. I do well in ketosis. I notice no detrimental effects on performance in the gym, even with very, very low carb intakes, like 30 gram net carbs per day. Some people would go even lower. And if you respond well to the appetite suppressing effect, because that is huge. Many people in research, if you put them on a keto diet, they'll start losing fat even if you try to make them gain weight. There's actually a recent study about that they had people and they were supposedly in energy surplus and trying to gain mass, but they ended up losing fat. And then the researchers concluded a ketogenic diet is inefficient for muscle growth. And no, it was so good for fat loss, basically, that it suppressed their appetite, and they ended up with very low calorie intake. They ended up losing fat instead of bulking.
Right. Yeah, that's super interesting that it was like the reason they didn't build muscle was that they simply underate and subconsciously dependent. So it may not be the best diet for purely muscle mass in comparison to like a high carb diet, but it still has like it has its benefits. And I would say that in terms of like lean bulking and such, then it can actually be really, really effective, that you won't gain that much fat, and you can still maintain like consistently your physical performance at the gym as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a review currently in the works that should be submitted reasonably soon about the effects of carbohydrate intake on performance. And I think a lot of the anti-keto crowd and are going to be disappointed, because the glycogen expenditure, that's the usual mechanism by people say you need a high carb intake because you need glycogen stores to be high. Well, it's even very heavy duty workouts with high volume for a single muscle group. You're talking about 20, maybe 40% depletion. 40% is the highest level that is found in research. And then you're talking about bodybuilders doing super high volume. Usually it's still like 20% depletion. In women, sometimes considerably less even. And that resynthesizes within 24 hours under most circumstances. You have the Cori cycle, the Krebs cycle. The body can use that quite efficiently to still produce glucose and thereby glycogen, even when there is a very low supply of dietary carbohydrates. And the glycerol backbone of triglycerides, of fat, can also be converted to glucose. And there's the not so desirable pathway of amino acids that can be used for glucose production. That would be a last resort, ideally, if you have sufficient protein intake. It should only happen. I don't think it's a major concern. Now, endurance training, or especially mixed, like concurrent training, like team sports, that's mostly anaerobic. Pure strength training and like ultra endurance training, they probably don't suffer at all from a ketogenic diet. So I actually think that for most people, a ketogenic diet won't impair muscle growth at all.
Mm-hmm. So part of it may have to do with that you're actually taking your own body fat and converting it into muscle glycogen and using it to replenish